Hello YouTube, this is TxWindfall with
LilWindfall.
and today we're going to talk about making a double bucket self-watering bucket for your bucket garden. Basically what you do is you take two 5-gallon buckets from your favorite big box retail or home and garden center, either the orange guys or the blue and silver guys, it doesn't matter. There are some other places where you can get free 5-gallon buckets. One of them might be from a pool supply place. They tend to have a lot of 5-gallon buckets laying around. Also, bakeries have 5-gallon buckets that a lot of times they'll give you for free, so there are some free resources. But if you decide to go through the home improvement centers and things like that, they run about $3 a piece. We're going to use two for this example, so you'll need 2 buckets, a piece of leftover PVC pipe if you got it. If not, it's pretty inexpensive to go and get a piece of PVC pipe, a frosting container from like Duncan Hines frosting or something like some other brand like that. The important part is on the frosting container, and I don't know if you can see this in the camera very well, that has a nice lip on the top like that, and I'll show you why in a little bit later. But you also need a Sharpie.
Doesn't matter what color.
Doesn't matter what color. Yeah, and then a good knife. Now this one just happens to be a Benchmade knife. It's my favorite knife. It's my everyday carry knife. Really like it.
You need to get me one.
But these are the things that you'll need to make this bucket. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the bucket upside down. And with the bucket upside down, we are now going to set the frosting container right side up, centered over the middle of the bucket. Now, if it's not exactly in the middle, it's not going to make that big a difference. But you want to put the bottom side down because the top side is wider, and you'll need that to hold the frosting container in place. So we're going to trace around the bottom of the frosting container onto the bottom of the bucket. And LilWindfall is going to just demonstrate that.
Yes, this is hard.
Doesn't have to be real accurate because you're going to cut that piece out anyway. So when you remove it, you got a little mark like that.
That's horrible.
The next thing we're going to do is we're going to trace out a hole for the standpipe or the watering pipe. Now it's important to note that with the PVC pipe, you're going to want to cut one of the ends on an angle, okay? And the reason for that is that's going to stick down through the bucket, and so that's where you're going to water from. So if it was flat, laying on the flat bottom of the bucket, you wouldn't be able to fill the bucket. So cutting at an angle allows you to fill the bucket up. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand this up in the corner right here, like that, and LilWindfall is going to trace around the bottom of that. So now essentially we have 2 places that we're going to cut with our knife. Be sure that you're very careful, follow all safety rules when you're using a knife. You can cut the smaller hole if you wanted to. If you have the tools, you could use a paddle bit to cut that out. I've always found it's just easier to use a pocket knife. So we'll cut those out and we'll get back to you. Okay, now that we've got the 2 holes cut out in the bottom of our 5-gallon bucket, what we're going to do is we're going to place the frosting container through the bottom of the bucket. And it's okay, it's supposed to be snug and tight. Push it through like that. And what we end up with is it sticking out of the bottom of the bucket like that. And what we'll end up doing, and I'll show you, is we're going to drill holes all through this bottom piece. So when it nests into the other container, like that. And you can see, it'll sit in the bottom. When we fill that with dirt, it'll help wick water up into the dirt in this bucket. And we'll have a little reservoir of water down in the bottom of there, which we can fill with our pipe, which we'll insert into the hole there. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take our screw gun and the frosting container, and we're going to drill some holes into the frosting container. And the reason why we do this is so the water can get to the dirt and wick it up to the plant and the roots. Now the holes there doesn't have to be a ton of them, and there's no specific size. Some people like the holes smaller, some like them bigger. Any way it'll work. The one thing I suggest that you do is after you're done putting the holes in on the sides of the frosting container, make sure that you put a couple in the bottom. Doesn't matter how symmetrical it is, just put holes in it. And then we're going to place that back into our bucket container. So it looks something like that. Okay? And then once you do that, and then put in your standpipe for the water, you'll end up with a 2-bucket watering system. Okay, now that we've got the frosting container drilled with holes, we have the hole drilled for our standpipe and the frosting container in place. As you see, that's where that lip comes in handy. It holds that in place. We'll now turn the bucket upside down, and we're going to drill holes into the bottom of the bucket, which allows water that comes from the top to drain through into the reservoir. So you don't have to have a specific pattern to this. Just some well-drained holes to well drain. And we'll finish this up and get back to you. Okay, here's the bucket with the holes drilled in the bottom. And what that does is allow for drainage from the top, but it also allows the roots to grow through the holes and into the water reservoir in the bottom of the bucket. Now, what you just do at that point is you just take the bucket and place it in the other bucket as a reservoir. But you don't want it to get too full. You don't want the buckets to overflow because there's nowhere to drain. So that's when we drill an overflow hole. What you basically do is just line the 2 buckets up with this lip, which catches this top. Line it up on the ground. Take your drill, eyeball it, and drill a weep hole in the bottom bucket. That way the bucket won't get too full and it won't drown your plants. So after that's done, you just put your standpipe in. Now, I find these buckets are the best used for me, I've had the most success for peppers and tomatoes and plants similar to that. Had real good success with peppers especially. I've had more peppers than I know what to do with. But so that is a self-watering bucket. If you found this video helpful, please click like, and if you want to see more from us,
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe. Thanks.
Bye.